Hello again, folks. My name is Dustin Cormier. You're watching another episode of How to Rock Astrology. Today's episode, we're going to be on episode 4 in our series talking about the true story of the Nakshatra Gods. We are on section 2, Drugs and Judges. We just heard about Parani and Magha nakshatras. Now we are going to talk about, in this episode, Vishaka and Mrigashirsha. This is called the power. This first chapter is going to be discussing Vishaka and Indragni. It's called the power of decisions. Vishnu lent aid to Indra by empowering Yama to take over the judicial branch of universal government. Brahma and Agni also gave Indra an important gift to help the rain god rise to the task of being the leader of the gods. This gift was the king of fire, Indragni. So we notice that Indra and Agni are both in the name Indragni. Indragni personified resides permanently at the right hand of Brahma, who must have gifted or at least allowed some portion of it to go to Indra's side. The best, Indra, of all forms of fire, Agni, is the flame of consciousness, the intellectual metabolism that digests concepts and can make accurate and effective plans. With this at his side and service, personified as his consort Indrani, Indra gains the confidence and clarity absolutely necessary for any king or a leader, the ability to make clear decisions and follow through with definite plans and strategies. Indragni can also refer to the best form of conventional fire, which is the sacrificial flame used to convey offerings to the gods in return for their blessings and protection, the yajna. In this sense, Indragni has an ambitious, goal-oriented nature, doing what it takes to get what it wants. A third way to read Indragni is as Indra's fire. This refers to Indra's lightning bolt, the second form of fire, the celestial form that eats and releases water from the sky. Now that was a little bit of a rendition on what exactly Vishaka, the nakshatra, symbolizes in its deity, Indragni. Now our next chapter is going to talk about Indra's miracle drug. And this relates to Mrigashirsha, the nakshatra Mrigashirsha, and Soma, its presiding deity and substance. At least as important as the gift of supreme fire is the gift of supreme water, and this is Amrita, Indra's miracle drug given to him by the moon god Soma. Water is the element that enables food to have flavor and vitality, and which, in the form of blood, carries food's nutrition throughout the body. Water has an intimate symbolic and physical relation to the moon. Symbolically, both water and the moon are nurturing, motherly, and feminine. Physically, the position of the moon causes the ocean to ebb and flow with tides. It is natural, then, that the moon god, called Chandra, has immense control over water, and therefore immense control over the flavor and vitality that we can obtain from food. This is why the moon god is often referred to as Soma, a word that indicates the liquid essence of vitality and flavor in food. The moon god produces a liquid of super concentrated vitality and flavor called Soma, and also described as Rasa and Amrita. Rasa refers to the deliciousness in food and the delight it produces. All food contains this Soma Rasa, but not to the same extent or in the same variety. This is why there are so many varieties of tastes and various intensities of flavor. Amrita refers to the nourishment in food, which vitalizes us and keeps us alive. The word literally indicates negation, of death, mrita, amrita. It's common in Sanskrit when you put an A in front of a word, it represents something that negates. Amrita is the negation of death, mrita. Again, all food contains Soma Amrita, but not to the same extent or in the same variety. This is why there are various types of nutrients in food and various degrees of healthful properties in different foods. All forms of life constantly search for the rasa, pleasure, and amrita, health, of Soma. And this is more simply symbolized by a deer sniffing out herbs and roots in the forest, Mrigashirsha. No food contains rasa and amrita in as pure and concentrated a form as the nectar produced by Soma and given in copious supply to Indra. Drinking it incessantly, Indra magnifies his strength and becomes undefeatable, and also increasing his appetite and capacity to enjoy thrills and pleasures of the earthly sort. Now, I think before we end, we're only 8 minutes in, so I'm going to do one more chapter here. This is going to end the section on drugs and judges. The next chapter is Indra's embargo, talking about the nakshatra Ashwini. Now, Indra jealously guards his supply of Soma, and he shares it only with a select few. Knowing that much of his power comes from the miracle drug Soma, he's particularly paranoid about who else should be able to drink it. As far as his enemies are concerned, he ferociously protects it from falling into their hands. The dragons, however, were once able to lick a few drops of it when Vinata's son, the divine eagle Garuda, freed his family from slavery by giving them a pot of Amrita, which Indra immediately snatched, leaving the dragons to split their tongues by licking up spilt drops of it from the razor-sharp kusha grass. Besides diligently keeping Soma away from his enemies, Indra even embargoes who among the gods can drink it. This became a particular pressing issue when Surya, the sun god, unexpectedly had handsome, strong, and powerful twin sons, the Ashvini. Seeing these naturally qualified princes of Surya, who himself would have been a more natural candidate for Indra's position as heaven's king, Indra became paranoid and decided to safeguard his interests by forbidding them from ever drinking Soma. The Ashwini were born as, and often took the form of, horses. Beautiful, strong, healthy animals who thrive on running fast and free out in the open. Having a horse-like nature, they naturally loved freedom, and they hated limitations and barriers. Indra's ban only made the Ashwini desire Soma all the more. They came to know that sage Daditi had figured out a way to create synthetic Soma, and went to that sage, requesting him to teach them that science. We, the Ashwini said, we are also experts in health and medicine, so we will make good students. Surely you would make good students, Dadichi replied, but I cannot teach you this science. Indra has forbidden it. He threatened to cut off my head if I teach it to anyone. You are a sage, they said. You are not subject to the threats and laws of gods. That may be true, Dadichi said, but I do not wish to set the example of disobeying the gods. So the Ashwini, they thought about it for a while. They thought. And after thinking for a while, the Ashwini came up with a plan. They said, we have mastered surgery. So how about this? We will remove your head and keep it viable on the body of a horse. Meanwhile, we will give you the head of that horse. With that head, you can teach us how to make Soma. And when Indra cuts off your head, we will simply take your true head from the horse and put it on your body once again. So, Dadichi agreed, and he taught the Ashwini the secrets of divine pharmacy. As expected, Indra showed up very soon thereafter, full of anger, and decapitated the sage forthwith. And, as planned, the Ashwini restored Dadichi's true head. This circumvention infuriated Indra, but fear of the sage's curse prevented him from taking action again. The Ashwini had gained ability to synthesize Soma, but Indra vehemently continued to ban them from access to the real thing. Sometime later, they happened to see an exquisitely beautiful young princess, Sukanya, and learned that she was married to a very old sage named Sayavana. The marriage had been the result of a strange twist of fate, coupled with the maiden's exalted feminine nobility. When the Ashwini met the decrepit old sage, he said, "You are experts in health and beauty and medicine. So, for the sake of this beautiful and noble woman, bring me back the full vitality and beauty of my youth. If you do this, I promise you will drink real Soma without restriction." The Ashwini twins restored Sayavana, who became as handsome and beautiful as they. At first, the two twins and the newly youthful sage looked exactly identical, but by her love, Sukanya could easily tell which of the three which was her husband. Her father, King Sharyati, came to visit, and Sayavana requested him to perform a Soma ceremony. During that ceremony, Sayavana himself took the full pot of Soma and set it before the Ashwini twins. No sooner had he done so when Indra appeared on the scene, full of fury. Lifting his thunderbolt with intent to kill the sage, he scolded, "How dare you violate my ban against these two? But Sayavana merely moved his finger, and Indra found his arm paralyzed. The sage then rebuked the god. These two benevolent twins are gods, sons of Surya. Why are you so suspicious even of your friends? Lift your ban on their partaking of Soma with the rest of the gods, or I shall not free you from this paralysis. Vic Dicara has a note here where he says that this episode shows the Vedic concept that sages are superior to gods, and thus the substance possessed by sages, knowledge, is superior to the substance possessed by a god, which is power. The gods also symbolize karma, because they are overseers of the karmic mechanisms of the universe. The superiority of the sages to the gods shows that the Vedic people believed that knowledge was more powerful than karmic fate. That's awesome. After all this, after Sayavana told Indra that you must let the Ashwini twins partake of Soma just like the rest of the gods, or else I won't remove you from this paralysis. The rest of the gods took the opportunity to talk sense to Indra, who finally obeyed the sage and accepted the Ashvini into the circle of gods who drink Soma. Very interesting story. The Soma is such an interesting figure. Now, this has been the end of the second section of our book. The next section, we are going to get into paranoia and passion. And it's at this point I have to admit that I'm just realizing I had initially said that section 3 was going to be about Aditi. It seems I had forgotten a chapter in the intro. Oh well. Section 3 is going to be paranoia and passion. After this section is going to be the section on Aditi. For now, thank you so much for watching. I'm How to Rock a Campfire. I'm Dustin Cormier with How to Rock Astrology. Thank you for watching. Tune in next week where we're going to talk about Pushya and Chitra. Thank you very much for watching again.